This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1750, Previews.
Be nice if I actually had the music queued up. 1 second. Hold on. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I swear to God. All right, here we go.
I have faith.
All right, and boom.
Case of laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek, uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is...
I'm Adam Murdo.
I'm Ian Levinstein.
And I'm Chris Eberly.
Comic Geek Speak!
Yeehaw.
Yes, now.
Hey.
All right, you really got me that time, Ian.
This is yeah, I got myself too. This is obviously one of those days where the board operation is operating itself.
Gentlemen, regardless of our ramshackle beginning, I'm quite at home right now. Good to hear both your voices.
Professionalism right out the window, but fellowship right in.
Yes.
Hell yes. Good to hear everybody's voices again, and to get together for another previews.
All right. I trust you're both well, my friends.
Narrowly avoided strep throat has been running through my household, but I got it about 2 months ago, and I've so far, knock on fake wood, avoided it. So here's hoping that continues.
Splendid.
Yep, fingers crossed for Ian. I kind of thought I had come down with that same condition myself. It turned out just to be an ordinary cold that stuck in my throat for 3 straight days.
Ooh, been there, done that, my friend. Been there, done that. Yep. Well, here we are with another previews, and of course, it's previews, and of course, Murd has information on who our sponsor is.
Yes, it's the same as it always is on these previews episodes of ours, and that's our good friends at the Discount Comic Book Service. That's dcbservice.com online, and it is the premier Comic Geek Speak source for comic book pre-ordering online at deep discounted prices. They always offer the very generous discounts on all newly published comics, especially from Marvel, DC, Image, and Dark Horse. New single issues are always automatically 40% off from those publishers, with occasional monthly specials going up to 50% off, or even in some very rare instances, 75% off. New trades and hardcovers from Marvel and DC are, for the most part, 50% off. Some exclusions apply. And there's also the famous bundles, where they offer you the chance to buy a group of comics with some publisher, imprint, or crossover or theme in common for 50% off a whole lot. There's several Marvel and DC ones on offer from their website as we speak. And then there's also their Capital Customer Service. They do a very good job of anticipating and solving any problems that you as a client may encounter with their service. And they offer you a variety of different frequencies of shipment for your orders. You can pay a little bit extra to have a variety of different grades of bag and board added to all the books you order from them. They take good care of you over there, and for a very reasonable price. So, once again, that website is dcbservice.com. Go there, check them out. We all use their service from time to time and swear by them. And they're my lifeline during my months in exile here in Cape May County, New Jersey. Couldn't get by the summer without them. And just very happy for all they do for us. And we're pleased to list them as the sponsor for this and every previews episode of our podcast.
Hear, hear.
Amen to that.
I just got my shipment for September this past Monday, because it was delayed because of the holiday and all that, but which is normal. But the packaging is always spot on. I don't think they've ever missed anything I've ever ordered. Occasionally, I've forgotten to put something in. I email them. They always get it out to me in the next shipment. Again, they have no peer.
There was only one time I remember when they neglected to put a few things things in one of my shipments, but that was during one of their moves. So it's understandable that a few wires got crossed. And once I notified them, they redressed the problem instantly.
Yep.
Most excellent. Alrighty. Previews. 372, if I'm reading correctly.
Yep. It's December covers, so it's all the books shipping, ideally in November.
Beginning with Image, as we usually do. On page 42, that Jeff Lemire has got himself a new comic book. With art and cover by Phil Hester and Ryan Cody. Lemire and Hester together in a comic.
Yeah, Hester's a great artist.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This one's about an 8-year-old girl who literally begins to transform into a tree. Her single mom, troubled brother, and possibly insane grandfather embark on a bizarre and heart-wrenching odyssey across the back roads of America in a desperate search for a way to cure her horrifying transformation before it's too late. So,
see, that's so intriguing, and combined with the fact that it's Lemire, that I want to read this.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
It certainly seems right up his alley.
Yep. Okay, so I'm deeply excited for the book on page 46.
Tell us more.
All right. So, the E and the way you said that was so tittillating. Terrific. I love when you get all smoky in bedroom like that.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Undiscovered Country #1. Now, the creative team. Co-written by Charles Soule and Scott Snyder. Art by Giuseppe Camuncoli, forgive me if I mispronounced that, and Daniele Orlandini. The cover alone is so compelling. I'll read the copy. In this special oversized first issue, readers will journey to the near future and an unknown nation that was once the United States of America. A land that's become shrouded in mystery after walling itself off from the rest of the world without explanation over 30 years ago. When a team seeking a cure for a global pandemic breaches U.S. borders, they quickly find themselves in a struggle to survive this strange and deadly lost continent. Now, they have some sample pages. The art's superb. And it's rare that I read sample pages and previews, and I want to read the story immediately. And these sample pages had that effect on me, and I'm deeply excited to read this comic. I love the creative team, and anything involving, alternate or potential apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic futures or whatever is going on in this United States that 30 years from now that it has absolutely no contact with the outside world, which is, really bizarre for a global power that has immense economic and military reach. I'm really intrigued to see what Snyder and Soule have come up with here. The cover is so gripping. I mean, America is just whited out. It just shows you Canada and Mexico down into Central America, and then there's just a white space in the center.
It's like taking the idea of DMZ and running it to 11.
Ooh. See, the lights just flicker because Jamie D's pissed that you just mentioned DMZ.
Yep. He's venting his ectospleen right now.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yep. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of this promotion here?
I think I'm on the pro undiscovered countryside here. If we're going to make buttons about it, I'll have the I Heart Undiscovered Country one to start with. It's a really fascinating bit of, well, if we can go by appearances here, obviously we haven't read it yet, but it looks like it's going to be a fascinating bit of dystopian spec fic about what would happen if the United States really, truly, completely embraced isolationism. And as you say, Chris, it's kind of hard to imagine how such a vast, important, and densely globally connected world power could manage to go so completely off the grid like this. So Soule and Snyder might have to do a little bit of tap dancing to sell the premise, and I get the feeling I might not completely agree with their speculation as to what becomes of the United States and life therein as a result of this isolationist move, but I trust the creators, and I'm intrigued enough by the premise that whatever issues I may have with it, I think I can put aside long enough to just enjoy whatever ideas that they put on the page. Plus, we can all enjoy the first issue at minimal cost because it's 50% off at dcbservice.com.
All right.
Yeah, I'm in for this as well, especially with the combination of Charles Soule and Scott Snyder. I mean, just one of those writers would have me intrigued, but to have the two of them working together on a project, I'm immediately interested in what's going to come from this. And we don't exactly know what's going to happen 30 years from now in this country, but basing any sort of speculative fiction on today's events is kind of something that comic book creators tend to do pretty well, one way or the other. They're usually wrong, but it's still nice to see the what if of what could be happening in our world. And I look forward to seeing what their take on it is. And if the art is any indication in the previews, I'm going to enjoy that as well.
All right. Well, stay tuned for our reaction a couple months from now. Yep.
And on the very next page, I need to say this properly. Heart attack, you ought to know by now. Sean Kittleson and Eric Zawadzki bring us Heart Attack #1 from Image. Not really familiar with either of these creators, but I am intrigued by both the art and the cover. And it's about how gene therapy has saved Americans from disease, only to give birth to variants, people with powers so unique the government denies their human rights. But a rebellion has begun. So very much a take on the mutant vent of comic books. This looks like a somewhat unique take on that, and maybe even based a little bit on the ultimate version of the X-Men from Marvel past. So interested to see where this one goes.
On page 58, this sounds intriguing. Olympia #1. Elon is a latchkey kid who spends his days alone reading comic books until his favorite superhero Olympian comes crashing off the page and into reality. But as he nurses his wounded and delirious hero back to health, he discovers Olympian is the only thing that came through. Something evil followed him. A comedic yet heartfelt love letter to the comics community, Olympia is also a meditation, hope, and loss by Kurt and Tony, forgive me if I misbutcher this, Perez. I love the art, and based on the copy, I think I might enjoy what they're going to try to do with this concept. Plus, I love the cover with that the Silver Age dots. So.
Oh yeah, very 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 Kirby-esque action going on here.
Yep.
Fairly Larson-esque artwork.
Good point.
Page 62, the book Moonshine by Azzarello and Eduardo Risso. I read the first couple issues of this and I loved it, and then I just kind of lost track of it, which is not the fault of the book. It was just me. It's a werewolf story in Prohibition, which is just fun right off the bat, and dealing with gangsters, and I love the issues I read, and I have to get back to it. But they're only up to issue 13. I must have gone on hiatus for a while, so maybe I'll track these down and trade because the first couple were really really interesting. Just I love when they combine the supernatural with history like that.
It's a shame they couldn't get issue 13 out 2 weeks earlier. It would have been on stands in time for Halloween.
Good point.
Yep. What else from Image, gentlemen?
Well, a few pages back on page 54, a new series called Philadelphia, written by Rodney Barnes with art by one-time Spawn artist Jason Sean Alexander. On the surface of it, it doesn't look like the kind of thing I would normally order. It's not that really into crime fiction, and this is the story of a Philadelphia police detective whose father is murdered and starts to do some digging and discovers a trail of corruption leading deep into the dark heart of the city of brotherly love. The solicitation buries the lead a little bit and mentions that there are also vampires involved, so that's an interesting twist. So that, plus the fact that it is set in Philadelphia. And I do tend to at least try new comic series that take Philadelphia, which I consider "quote unquote" my home city, even though I know almost nothing about it, as Julie Benson will attest. Because when she came to visit a couple of years ago, and she and I explored the place together, it was kind of I'm the one who's supposed to be the native, and I didn't know anything about the city or its attractions. I know basically this. I mainly know the stadium complex at the south end of town. But even so, I do feel kind of a kinship and connection to Philadelphia, and it intrigues me as a setting. And I'm happy to give this new series a try, both for the Philadelphia angle and the crime fiction with vampire angle.
Well, since you brought up the City Murd quick deviation, that I did indeed make it to the Marvel exhibit before it closed in Philadelphia. and I had a rollicking good time, especially since it was a Wednesday and there really weren't that many people there. And
how many hoots was it, Ian? How many hoots?
Too many hoots to count, my friend. Too many hoots to count. I'd say,
hoots.
Yeah. It was an infinite on top of infinite amount of hoots with the amount of art they had on display and the entire trip. The admission to the exhibit was the most expensive part of my trip. It cost me $5 there and $5 back on the Megabus because it was in the middle of the week. And you can't get better for a whirlwind Philadelphia trip than that. Oh, and the fact that I got Billers Donuts from Reading Terminal Market makes it even better. So I had a good time.
Excellent.
Yep. Going back to the book on page 66, I know that we did mention Section 0 at its first issue when it was solicited a little while ago, and now here we are with the collection of Kessel and Grummet's superhero action. If Jack Kirby had created the X-Files, it would look like Section 0. That's the way to describe it here in the solicitation. And I am very intrigued to see where that one's going to roll.
Well, this goes back to the defunct Guerrilla Comics label.
Yep.
Of the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm. That is correct. Yep. And then they brought it back with Image not too long ago under their Shadowline imprint. The trade dress looks very much like the Ultimate trade dress out of Marvel from a little while ago.
Yep. Well, that's because that defunct Guerrilla Comics imprint Chris was mentioning was happening around the same time Marvel was launching Ultimate. So that's no coincidence. It's just part of the publishing zeitgeist at the time.
Makes sense to me. Yep. Well, if you want all 6 issues, there it is.
I wanted to point out on page 78, the latest issue of Criminal. I just read the latest issue I received just a few days ago, and I've said this before, but I have to reiterate. Whenever they write the history of the comic book medium for this era, Brubaker and Phillips are one of the premier creative teams working today and for the past several years. I still read as many books as I used to just because of money and time, but I still read a fair number. And there's most other comics, and there's this. This material is in a class by itself. These creators are they are way above pretty much almost anyone else working in comics, as far as I'm concerned. This is the medium at its absolute best. And I mean, especially if you love crime noir, obviously. But put even that aside, these are master storytellers just at the top of their game. I can't recommend everything they've done enough. In fact, the last previews I ordered, and I don't order that many trades anymore, let alone hardcovers, but they released the Killer Be Killed series in hardcover form. I ordered it without hesitation because I want that on my shelf. What else from Image, my friends?
I can roll back to page 67 real quick just to mention Sharky the Bounty Hunter in trade paperback that collects the first 4 issues. If only to mention that Simone Bianchi is on art, and some of my favorite Uncle Sal stories are about Simone. So that's one of my reasons to read it, if not for the fact that he's also an amazing artist. So there's that to you. And Mark Miller to boot.
Page 82, another one of the premier teams of comics, Rucka and Lark, Lazarus Risen 3. They've now moved this book to a 64-page comic that does not come out monthly, which is fine because you get so much bonus material in it. $7.99, it's worth every penny. This is besides Criminal, this is the other book that I think is just heads and tails, but of pretty much anything else being produced that I'm reading or I'm familiar with. I've talked about Lazarus many times on the air, so I won't go into too much detail, but let's just say Rucka has a deeply compelling, disturbing, but completely plausible dystopian vision of the future of not just the United States, but the world. And it's terrifying and compelling, and you can't look away. It's the ultimate expression of just corporate power completely unchecked on a global scale. This is one of the greatest comics being produced of the past several years, without question. And it's the greatest work of Michael Lark's career, in my opinion, as well. I also have to mention on page 87, you know what's not there? Saga.
If you weren't going to do it, I was going to do it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that as a complaint because they can take as much time as they want because the book is that good. But it's been a while now, and I am so jonesing for the next issue, especially considering how the last issue ended. And I'm just And have you heard, because you're plugged in more than I am, have you heard anything about when it's coming back, or is there not a peep?
There really hasn't been a peep. All they've talked about is the fact that they're approaching Endgame on Saga, and I look forward to just exactly how that's going to end. But yeah, I'm not sure when it's going to happen yet. But I do need to craft some sort of like breaking news bumper to play every time you say that, though, because I feel like that would be a good exclamation point on top of that whenever we get to that page in the previews and there's no Saga.
Yep. Anything else from Image Brothers?
Nothing from me. Merge, you got anything?
Well, I may as well mention on page 68, new printing of a collection of medieval fantasy short stories by one of the recent masters of the genre, dating back to the 80s or 90s, Becky Cloonan.
Oh, she's tremendous.
Yes, By Chance or Providence. And it's stories that have been published before, but this is a new image printing. And I think I may give it a try.
Her work, when Brian Wood was writing Conan some years back, some of the best Conan stories I've ever read, by the way. And she did the art in the early issues, absolutely gorgeous. She as far as I'm concerned, draws the most gorgeous, sexiest Belit I've ever seen. Just a tremendous artist. Highest recommendation, anything she does. All right, Dark Horse?
Dark Horse it is, and I know exactly where I'm starting.
We follow your lead, brother. Go ahead.
All right. On page 97, for anybody like myself who has not experienced Black Hammer yet, they're coming out with Black Hammer 3 for $1. Not 2 for $1, 3 for $1. I go back to the days of when I used to be on the subway, and there was a subway busker who used to sell Duracell batteries, 3 for $1, not 2 for $1, 3 for $1. But that's right away. This strikes me as a good entry point into the world of Black Hammer as we get the first issues of the original run, the Sherlock Frankenstein run, and the Quantum Age run, all in one $1 package.
Well, I'll pull a Biden right now and talk about a record player, because I'm going to be a broken record yet again. This is one of the greatest comics being produced today, especially if you love superheroes and just that whole genre. It doesn't get better than this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what does get better than $1, though, is 60 cents, and that's what you'll pay at DCBS for this issue.
Next page. I haven't read the first issue of Black Hammer Justice League yet. I have it. So I'm looking forward to that. But if it's Lemire, so I'm sure it's fantastic.
Gem of the Month on page 100, Witchfinder, The Reign of Darkness, a new miniseries by Mike Mignola with art by Christopher Mitten. And this is about Sir Edward Grey takes on London's most famous serial killer. But he's the only one who thinks Jack the Ripper murders have an occult purpose. So adding a bit of a mystical, magical bent onto the Jack the Ripper mystery. Witchfinder, The Reign of Darkness, #1.
I'm jumping ahead. We can always jump back to page 111 because this is a legendary entry. A new edition of Facts from Sarajevo by the late great master of the medium, Joe Kubert. Kubert did this OGN on about a family enduring the Yugoslavian Civil War of the 1990s. If some listeners don't know or don't recall, was one of the worst conflict on European soil since World War II. The city of Sarajevo, which is now in the country of Bosnia-Herzegovina, was besieged by Serbian forces for quite some time, and it was all over the news. And Kubert, I think he was actually, I want to say he was in communication with someone in the city, if I remember correctly. It says he was on the receiving end of faxes from his trapped friend. Kubert really illustrates their struggle toward freedom against the worst kind of odds. So that's a classic.
And if you feel like learning more about Mr. Kubert, episode 77 from November 21st, 2005, a conversation with Joe Kubert.
Man, Ian,
fastest keyboard in the West.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man. Clutch. What else from Dark Horse, brothers? I don't have anything else from myself, but I'm sure you guys may have something you want to mention.
I just like mentioning everything because it's called everything. That everything. You have to say it like that every single time.
All right, so noted.
Oh, actually, here's something for the fans of video games out there. Page 166, FF Dot, the pixel art of Final Fantasy. Experience the intriguing evolution of pixel art from the Final Fantasy series, containing detailed sprite sheets that showcase the pixel composition of Final Fantasy's beloved characters. And this is pretty cool because you see these sprites on the screen, since the Nintendo days and further, and you just think to yourself, oh, those are character models, and sometimes you forget just how much detail and work has to go into these, dot by dot by dot, to make sure that they work right on the screen. And this is going to be a really cool book to own for anybody who's a fan of the Final Fantasy series or pixel art in general. So, well worth mentioning.
On page 94, a new Elf Quest miniseries is starting up from Wendy and Richard Pini and their Warp Graphics studio. And the first issue is 50% off on dcbservice.com. And for people who are fans of kitty cats and comic books about them, there is actually a Fat Cat collection of a manga called What's Michael? That's just listed on page 118. It's 520 pages of comic books about the daydream adventures of an overweight little house cat named Michael. That's a series that's been around for a while. I'm ready to move on if you are.
Alrighty, DC.
Okay. Right there on page 1, Sean Murphy, Klaus Janson.
Wow.
Batman White Knight presents Von Freeze. One shot in the world of Batman White Knight. I have that first trade digitally, and I'm looking forward to reading it very, very soon. But you got Murphy and Jansen on a one-shot, and I am immediately reading that. Damn.
Looks like it also has ties to World War II in terms of the backstory.
Yep, sure does.
So, the Dollhouse Family on page 2 and 3, written by Mike Carey, with a backup story by Joe Hill.
It kind of feels like Joe Hill is following in his father's footsteps with DC, with the same way that Stephen King wrote backups for Scott Snyder's Vampire series, American Vampire. That's when that first started. That had King backups, and now here we are with Joe Hill doing backups for Dollhouse Family. So
we should mention that the artist is Peter Gross, who Carey worked with on Unwritten.
That's a good point. Yes. Never did finish Unwritten. May have to go back to it eventually.
I didn't either, and I'm sorry to say I didn't because I loved it.
I fell off during that Fables quote-unquote crossover. It kind of lost me there. I was expecting more than what I got, and it just sort of derailed the series.
All right. On page now DC's following Marvel, not numbering their pages. 4 and 5, I guess.
Yeah.
Far Sector #1, a new Green Lantern story.
I don't really know much about this. What is this? Yet another Earth Lantern, or is this? Because that's a lot at this point.
It says, for the past 6 months, newly chosen Green Lantern Sojourner Joe Moline has been protecting the city, enduring a massive metropolis of 20 billion people. The city has maintained peace for over 500 years by stripping citizens of their ability to feel. As a result, violent crime is virtually unheard of, and murder is non-existent. That's all about to change in this new mech series that gives a DC Young Animal spin to the legacy of the Green Lanterns.
Okay.
So.
Well, I don't think City Enduring is on Earth, so hopefully that means she's not.
Yeah. It's a Young Animal series, so I don't think it's really supposed to be in continuity or set in the present day anyway.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's a good point there. They are sort of distancing themselves a little bit from the main continuity. So, yep.
Speaking of Green Lantern, next couple of pages, page 7. I got to comment the fact they have a facsimile edition of the classic Green Lantern, Green Arrow 85. You always have all the answers, Green Arrow. Well, what's your answer to that? My ward, Speedy, is a junkie. DC attacks youth's greatest problem, drugs. This is one of the greatest covers of the Bronze Age, without question.
Yep.
Classic O'Neill, Neil Adams. Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. I mean, they've gotten a lot of storytelling mileage out of Speedy's heroin addiction.
Yep.
So
Some great stories and some absolutely terrible stories.
there. But so if you never read that classic, it's a facsimile edition for $3.99.
Yep.
It should only be $1, but anyway.
Yeah. And just below that, the second half of that same page, another list of these 100-page giants that DC has been producing for retail sale in what they call mass market outlets, basically large department store chains. I'm not sure whether it's Walmart or Target, but one of the two. And now they're being done in a direct market edition. That this has been going on for some months now, and they're. But what intrigues me is at the very bottom of the list, Crisis on Infinite Earths Giant #1. It's 100 pages, including 96, but close enough. 24 pages of new stories, plus classic reprints. Now, I'm pretty sure that whatever those classic reprints are, I will already own them in one form or another, but 24 pages of new story having to do with Crisis. I don't know what they're going to be or who the creators are, but if it's new Crisis material, I'm going to roll the dice, lay down my $4.99, whatever it is, minus the DCBS discount, and order this. As I get the feeling I'm going to be able to talk about it with one of my most valued colleagues on a certain spin-off podcast in the future.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You will. Oh, you will.
Well, I these page numbers make no sense to me anymore, so I'm just going to say the next page, because we go from page 3 and then they don't number anything until like 3 pages later when it says page 4. So screw it. Green Lantern Black Star is #1 on the very next page. Morrison said he was going to have something after his Green Lantern series had completed, and we're getting it already. So this is going to be Hal's adventures as a member of the Black Stars, with a whole bunch of other people thrown in there as well. Looks like Mongols on the front cover. Very interested in what this has to bring to the table, with art by Zermanico.
Wow. Yeah, it looks like this is going to be kind of an Age of Apocalypse style pop-up alternate reality story, in which reality has been warped and the Green Lantern Corps never existed, and instead the Controllers and their Black Star Agency, which is, you may remember it from the 90s under the name Dark Stars. I'm assuming Morrison had a good reason for changing the name. But anyway, it's going to be, what if Hal Jordan and all of his fellow Green Lanterns had never been members of the Green Lantern Corps because said Corps never existed? And because it's taking place in an alternate reality, Morrison has carte blanche to do whatever crazy stuff he wants to with all the other characters and worlds in the DC universe proper. So that sounds like more widescreen cosmic insanity from Morrison and his collaborators.
Just what I love seeing from him.
And on page 10, if you're a He-Man fan, Tim Seeley, Dan Fraga art, He-Man and the Masters of the Multiverse, #1.
Yeah, you pretty much had me from the title.
I figured.
I like that it's the scourge of anti-Eternia.
Blazing a trail across the dimensions, he's devastating each version of Eternia and stealing its power. Now, what cosmic DC villain's MO does that sound like?
All right.
Can't guess. Oh boy, they're doing a new He-Man series as well with Kevin Smith at the helm.
Oh wow!
Yep, over at Netflix. It's supposed to be, from all intents and purposes, a continuation of the original Masters of the Universe, as opposed to a reimagining.
And this is an animated show, I assume.
I assume so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All things point to that. It's interesting that they're not going to be tying that into She-Ra at all. It's just going to be its own bag.
Huh.
Yep.
All right. Next page. Constantine gets a new book, Hellblazer #1. Written by Cy Spurrier, art by Aaron Campbell.
Good choice of writer. I approve.
Great character.
And good choice of title, returning Hellblazer into the title of John Constantine.
I'm jumping ahead, if I may, to like you said, Ian, there's no more page numbers. Page 14 and 15, Legion of Superheroes #1 by Bendis, art by the great Ryan Sook.
Yeah, give this one to me. That it looks like so much fun.
Well, I'm looking at the ad copy here from Bendis himself. He's saying that this is a brand new Legion of Superheroes. This deeply harkens back to the original ideals and concepts of the Legion, but the Legion has not existed in the continuity of the DC universe as it stands today. So this is as fresh a take on a classic DC franchise as there has ever been. You don't need to have read anything. Superman and his family are meeting them for the first time along with us. I'm going to try this because I know very little about the Legion. It's one of the blind spots in my comic reading history. So,
well, I like that John is with them, leaving an opening for Connor to be the Superboy of the mainstay, universe once Young Justice makes its way back home. So he can go have his adventures with the Legion of Superheroes and come back whenever he wants, and Connor can go ahead and take his reign back as Superboy.
Murray, are you going to try this?
I'm trepidatious, but I think I am going to at least pick up the first issue.
I know you always have mixed feelings about Bendis.
Yeah, I really do. And this just seems like about as a concept that's about as far removed from his strengths as a writer as can possibly be. It's a long way from the mean streets of books like Jinx and Torso. And also, one could take issue with his remark that the Legion has not existed in the continuity of the DC Universe as it stands today, because if you'll remember, 2 of the New 52 series of the post-Flashpoint era were Legion books. 2 of them. So, you can say DCU Rebirth, but I'm still not exactly sure where lines are drawn between post-Flashpoint and continuity and DC Rebirth continuity, and I don't really buy what he's saying about the Legion having not existed so far.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to create more continuity problems later on when invariably the classic Silver Age and 5 year later Legions are brought back again. So we're going to have, Crisis after Final Crisis, Legion of 4 Worlds miniseries eventually. It's just yeah. Well, yes, I will give it a try. I will look at the first issue at least.
Well, I'd love
what
to
I have
discuss that.
I'm sorry, Ian, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'd love to discuss that first issue on the air with you gentlemen. So once we all get a hold of it, that seems like a hot issue to discuss on an off the racks type comic talk.
Pooh Bear, that's a date. Now, what I have absolutely no ambiguity about when it comes to excitement is on the next page. The Question, The Deaths of Vic Sage by Jeff Lemire and classic question artist Dennis Cowan. Wow.
And Bill Sienkiewicz.
Yes, sorry, I totally missed that. My God. Prestige format, bi-monthly. In. This is deep. Oh, wow. I cannot wait to read this.
Man.
I think I may pass on this one initially. It's not that I don't have confidence in the creative team, but the concept just seems very wrong for the character. I mean, we've already here in the post-Flashpoint whatever era seen the Question undergo an ill-fated revamp into a magic-based character. Remember the whole Trinity of Sin thing with him and Phantom Stranger? That was just that was misbegotten from Go. And now they seem to be trying to revamp him again as some kind of legacy character that's existed across decades or centuries of time. It's just a crusading reporter with a faceless mask. That's and an objectivist philosophy. That's all there really should be to the character. And now they're trying to graft all this other crap onto it. I have strong reservations, and I think I'm just going to save my shekels and wait until I hear the reviews.
Well, fair enough, Bert. Fair enough. I'm just because it's Lemire. I'm excited about it.
Well, didn't the Question just show up like very recently in a Greg Rucka issue of what he's doing? Because I could have sworn that I saw something like that. So now I'm just
I think it was probably in the Lois Lane thing that he's doing right now.
Yeah.
But is the Question Montoya?
Well, yes, I think the Montoya question is around, but the Vix, there's Event Leviathan also. I think a question has a role in that as well. So there's all kinds of characters running around doing all kinds of different incongruous things throughout the DC quote unquote universe these days. It's just hard to know what to believe anymore.
Yeah. Well, they do have a Q&A with Lemire on the very next page, and he brings up that he's looking to deepen the character's history and mythology, to expand the question's mythos.
Yeah,
through time.
he doesn't need to do that as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
What else in DC you guys want to shout out?
Yeah. Let's see. On page
Most of the monthlies I'm good on, but go ahead, please.
Well, yeah, very next page on what they call page 8, but I object to that. And on page 9, Tales from the Dark Multiverse Blackest Night #1 and Tales from the Dark Multiverse Infinite Crisis #1 by Tim Seeley and the second one by James Tinian IV. Art by Aaron Lopresti on the Infinite Crisis one, and art by Kyle Hotz and Dexter Vines on the Blackest Night one. So, man, they're turning out some damn good creative teams for these Dark Multiverse one-shots, and I look forward to seeing them all collected, because I'm sure they're going to have some sort of collection for these things eventually. And this it makes the What If and Elseworlds-minded love that I have very happy to see these sort of things coming out. I just look forward to them being collected as opposed to $5.99 a pop.
Gotcha.
What else, honeys?
Green Lantern Legacy by Min Lei and art and cover by Andy Tong. Another one of the youthful young adult series coming out, and this is about a 13-year-old who becomes Green Lantern. And interesting creative team, multi-ethnic creative team, and this could be fun. This could be really, really cool. Have not been disappointed by what's been coming out of these so far. So seems like it's going to be a pretty cool thing in general. So glad to see that DC is holding the fort down on the young adult stuff.
It's a little late for me to be touting this, but since I've already said I decided I didn't have interest in this 12-issue series, but the third issue of Inferior 5 on page 37 gives us the return of the Tasmanian Devil to the DC universe, going up against Starro. Yeah, I may need to give that a second look, perhaps in trade paperback or in discounted back issue form.
Written by Keith Giffen and Jeff Lemire.
I think Lemire is the writer of the Peacemaker backup story, which is also pretty interesting.
He's fighting the KG Beast.
More interesting still.
Also, hard not to point out the cover for Batman number 83 has Batman holding Bane over his head with his knee out, looking to break his back. Oh, how the tables have turned.
I've really been enjoying the last couple issues I've read where, they're really exploring the dynamic between Bruce and his, father from the Flashpoint reality. King's doing wonderful scripting with that. Again, this is, for me, still one of the most exciting series on the stands.
Most definitely.
What else for DC, brothers?
Well, I will mention on page 28, Birds of Prey number 2. Go ahead and ignore that, people, because that ain't happening. They have canceled the solicitations for Birds of Prey number 1 and number 2. It is being resolicited as a Black Label comic closer to the release of the Birds of Prey movie. And I don't know what that's going to do for the overall, story, but they've given it entirely new covers as well, and we ain't going to be seeing that for a while. So that's
when is the Birds of Prey movie supposed to come out?
Birds of Prey movie, I believe, is next year. So we're going to have a bit of a delay on this series as they let it sit. February 7th, it comes out. So it's going to be at least a couple more months until this series comes out. And considering I had a trepidatious view of it to begin with, I can go ahead and wait.
I'm a little alarmed because usually when they release movies in February, they wish to see die very quickly.
True, but it worked for Deadpool, and
that's true. That's true. Good point.
Yeah, I think they're hoping to try to get some of that rated R power out there for a February release.
Okay. I'm already in trade, so I don't want to steal your guys' thunder. If you have other floppies you want to talk about.
Let's see. Well, I do see on flash forward number 3 on page 32. The rift between the multiverse and dark multiverse is growing wider. I read that and I'm like, okay, so they decided after all this shebang with Wally, they were going to throw him into a multiversal story. And apparently in this one, he's going to find the Roy Harper from Earth 43, the world's premier vampire hunter. And I just, I'm really questioning the direction of this. And this is coming from a guy who loves multiversal tales.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about how they wanted to save the image of Wally after, the events that happened in Heroes in Crisis. And I don't know if this is the direction that they should be going here, where a story where he's not even in his own damn Earth. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, and I hope they will. But this has me even further worried than I was before.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes, folks. So it goes.
Any other floppies you guys want to comment on?
Murd, I leave it to you as I scroll down.
No, I'm okay with moving on to the trade section.
All right.
I wanted to point out great retro release on page 66, Black Hawk Blood and Iron by Howard Chaykin, Martin Pasco, and Mike Grell. I remember loving this story. I haven't read it in many years, but it's Chaykin's take on the Black Hawk mythos, collected in book form for the first time, it says here.
Also throwing in there a whole bunch of Black Hawk stories from the Action Comics Weekly anthology and a Secret Origins story from the 80s.
Yeah, so if you've never read Black Hawk stories, the character has a long history. Goes back to the Golden Age. But I remember enjoying this story immensely. And above that, another re-release classic, Black Orchid by Gaiman and McKeon. That's enough. I mean, I've read this. It was great, but I don't think I need to say more because it's by Neil Gaiman and Dave McKeon. I mean, Black Orchid was a Bronze Age character, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. I think she appeared in Adventure Comics, if I remember correctly. Something like that.
Yeah, debuted at the very end of the 60s. Joe Orlando created her, I think.
Yeah, and then Gaiman revisited the character. Was it in the 80s or the 90s? I don't remember, actually.
I think it was one of the very first things he did for DC. So, yeah, we're talking about the 80s.
Yeah, but it's fabulous. I highly recommend that. Also wanted to point out, because I know, Ian, you've been praising this, and I should get these trades on page 70, Hawkman Volume 2, written by Robert Venditti and art by Brian Hitch. You're a big fan of this series, correct, Ian?
Well, Murd's the one who pointed it out to begin with. I got it for cheap on a sale, and I'm waiting to read it. But it has gotten much praise for being as good, if not even slightly better, than Johns' reimagining of the Hawk, legacy to try to make it make sense. And I'm glad that Volume 2 is now available to further that along.
Okay, I'll have to get Volume 1 because I love the Johns series.
Yep.
So that's high praise.
Yes, it is. And right below that, is it 2 pages? Yeah, 2 pages below that. Justice League by Scott Snyder, Deluxe Edition, Book 1. For anybody looking to get a large amount of Justice League by Scott Snyder in one package, it's a hardcover collection collecting the first 13 issues. It's a good way to catch yourself up there.
On page 72, I love this. Famous First Edition New Fun #1 hardcover. So for those of us who enjoy the history of comics, New Fun was the first comic to contain original material. So comic books that appeared before that contained reprints of newspaper strips. And when Major Malcolm Wheeler Nicholson formed what would become DC Comics, National Periodical Publications, this was the first book he released that had original material in it. So it's a landmark in the history of the medium. And DC's doing a whole hardcover tribute to it here. Include essays by Roy Thomas and Nikki Wheeler Nicholson, the granddaughter of Major Malcolm Wheeler Nicholson. Fantastic.
And guys, 78, The Watchmen Companion. Now, talk about something I never thought I'd see recollected. But this includes the Watchmen watching the Watchmen and Watchmen taking out the trash game module.
I never even heard of this.
Now, these are
Wow.
these are of note because they are the only two other pieces Alan Moore ever sanctioned in the Watchmen universe. Him and Dave Gibbons illustrated and drew the whole damn thing, and this was his only other material that he was okay with. So it's very interesting seeing that recollected, because frankly I thought they'd never touch it just because they want to at least play somewhat nice with Alan Moore, but they own it, so they can do what they want with it. And it also collects pages from Who's Who in the DC Universe and the question number 17, which guest starred Rorschach.
Now, since I'm waiting for the collection, have they finished the John series or no?
Nope. I've been waiting a while for this at this point. Like any series that's supposed to be like, what was it, bi-monthly, and now it's almost like annually on the releases is cutting it a bit much. So they're 9 issues into something that should have ended 2 years ago. It's I can be cynical at times, and this does it to me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You guys ready for IDW? Have anything else you want to say about DC?
I almost forgot to mention it, and it's the back in the single issues. You guys don't have to flip back or anything, but this is the first month of Tim Drake's new identity in the pages of Young Justice. He is now going to be going by the name Drake. So no longer Red Robin or Robin. He's going to be going by Drake, and he's premiering his new costume in this issue as well. So,
all right.
Yep, trying to distinguish himself from the 18 other Robins out there.
No, Tim Drake's always been a great character.
Yes, he has.
And I have a collection I would like to
Please.
promote. On page 74, Super Friends, Saturday Morning Comics, volume. This is a hardcover edition of those classic 70s tie-ins to the classic 70s cartoon, written by one of my favorite creators, editors, continuity wonks, and all-around role models, E. Nelson Bridwell, among other writers. Art by Silver Age great Ramona Fradon, among others. And it collects 26 issues of the Super Friends comic, special stories from limited collector's editions, numbers C41 and C46, and a rare promo tie-in, the Aquateers Meet the Super Friends #1. Apparently a real rarity. I'll tell you what, these stories, I mean, they're a little hard to come by these days. They're similar to things like Spidey super stories on the Marvel.
Yes.
Because they were quote-unquote kiddie comics. I mean, they were given to younger readers who tended to just kind of read them into oblivion, tearing them to shreds. Older readers who might have preserved these things as collector's items didn't take them seriously. As a result, not that many copies of these things tend to survive. So it's nice to see a reprint of them because having been produced by the Nelson Bridwell, who's got... He was responsible for all of those, well, not all of them, but most of those Bronze Age Shazam stories that were spotlighted in my last Spotlight on Shazam episode. I like his storytelling sensibilities a lot. These are bound to be fun stories steeped in DC mythos and even creating some parts of the DC mythos that eventually bled through into the mainstream DC universe. This is where the Global Guardians were created, which included, characters that would evolve into Fire and Ice of the Bwaha Justice League. So they're more important to DC history than you might think, and they're just a fun read. So all of that said, if this were only in softcover edition, I would definitely be buying it. As it is, I think I'm going to bide my time. But I'm just happy that it exists in some form.
Well done, Murd. Well done. All right. IDW on page 128. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 100.
Yep. And writer Tom Waltz and Kevin Eastman, and on the art, the one, the only, Dave Wachter.
It's got the Wachter factor.
Right now in my basement office, I'm gazing with reverence at the Thanos full sketch Wachter did for me at the last Super Show we did back in 2013, complete with the Infinity Gems and the Gauntlet, which he did for me for free.
Oh my god! Oh.
It is breathtaking.
I have a horse that he drew as part of one of the panels at a Super Show, where a whole bunch of artists were given the task of drawing, sketches, like quick-fire sketches based on whatever people threw out there, and he had 5 minutes to draw it, and it is the most detailed horse you could possibly find in 5 minutes. And I treasure it to this day because that man is an animal himself in being able to draw. He's
tremendous
fantastic.
artist.
Yeah.
I got to mention this for Shane because I know he mentioned if you were with us for this episode. Page 136, Star Trek Picard, countdown number 1. So this is a prologue to the CBS show, which is – do we know when that's debuting, Ian?
Sometime next year. They haven't given an official date yet.
Okay, because I mean I've seen promos for it. I can't wait to see this show. I'm going to get CBS Access just to watch this.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yep.
If you're interested in that and you want to get the background leading up to the show, there it is. Let's see. What else from IDW, brothers?
Well, I was going to say before Murd speaks here on 137, for anybody who's interested in what Year 5 of Star Trek could have looked like, they do have the first collection of the Year 5 Odyssey's End, which is the first collection in that series by Jackson Lansing, Colin Kelly, Brandon Eastman, and Jody Hauser, with art by Stephen Thompson, Sylvia Califano, and Martin Kokolo. So that's more Star Trek for your buck there.
God, I love Star Trek. Oh. Ian, I thought of you on page 141. Dungeons and Dragons Infernal Tides.
Yeah, I'm not much into the Dungeons and Dragons comic books as much as I am in actually playing D&D, but this does look interesting. I do like the artwork there by Max Dunbar. But this is looks like it's just more of a fantasy adventure in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. So anybody who wants more out of it than their weekly game can go ahead and check that out.
Murd, on page 147, what's your take on the My Little Pony holiday special?
Well, I'm glad that it's more reasonably priced than past IDW My Little Pony holiday specials. I think they've been like $7.99 in the past. This one is much more reasonable, $4.99 for a 36-page comic. I might actually be buying it to celebrate Hearthswarming Eve.
All right. Again, IDW has licenses for kid-friendly Marvel comics and, of course, the kid-friendly Star Wars comics as well. And Disney stuff, including Mickey and Donald Christmas Parade 2019 on page 153.
Yep, always love some good Disney holiday fun.
Murd, has your store ever carried Christmas comics?
I don't believe we ever have. No, we've had Christmas illustrated storybooks, of course, but I don't think we've ever had true comic books on offer.
I've got one on 156, which may interest you, Chris, depending.
Ian, you beat me to the punch. Go for it.
Road of Bones. Is that what you're going for?
Yep. Go. Please proceed.
Man, horror history and Russian folklore collide in this brutal survival tale where the worst prison in the world is merely the gateway to even darker terrors. Based in 1953 in the Siberian gulag of Kolyma, is hell on earth, which is why Roman Morozov leaps at the chance to escape it. Man, that has your name written all over it, Chris.
Yeah, I've studied the Gulag system to some degree, not like an expert, but I've certainly read about it. And Kolyma is notorious as like ground zero for the Gulag system, and that's saying something. 53 is the year Stalin died. He may have actually been assassinated. There's some debate about that, but or at least his lieutenants may have allowed him to linger before they called the doctor. But we often forget that Stalin's Soviet Union is and probably always will be one of the most murderous regimes that ever existed in human history. And this Gulag system consumed millions of lives, Soviet citizens primarily, during his roughly 30 years he was in power. So, yeah, I may check this out if finances allow for it. Absolutely. Also intrigued on page 159, British Ice. This is another trade paperback about an Arctic island still under British rule. And a British official is posted there. He struggles to understand why and what interests he is protecting. Harris learns just how much of the land and its community lies in the shadow cast by the outpost's founder. Caught between hostile locals, the British government, and an unforgiving physical environment, he begins dragging dark secrets into the light, unaware of the tragic repercussions they will cause. Part noir, part historical mystery. Oh, that sounds up my alley, too. I just don't have the money for all this stuff.
Yeah, British Ice attracted my attention too, Chris.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's a story that, as the copy says, it explores the consequences of colonialism and the legacy of empire. That's an interesting topic in itself. Combined with the bleak Arctic setting, and it's going to be something like I'm picturing polar noir on the order of Greg Rucka's Whiteout.
Yes. God, I loved Whiteout. Oh, so good.
Yes, and check out that cover. It's like a lonely-looking little icebreaker boat in the middle of channels carved into the frozen ice caps around this island in the shape of the radiating arms of the Union Jack.
Yep. Yeah, it looks really compelling. Anything else for IDW? You guys ready for Marvel?
I'm ready for Marvel, and I'm ready for page 1 of Marvel.
Ian, proceed.
Oh boy, New Mutants number 1 and 2, as all part of the X-Men relaunch. Hickman and Brisson on issue 1 with Rod Reis art, and then issue 2 is just Hickman with Rod Reis, and we've got classic New Mutants meeting some Generation X action as well. As Sunspot, Wolfsbane, Mirage, Karma, Magic, and Cypher are joined by Chamber and Mondo to seek out their mission.
Mondo, wow.
Yeah. Seek out their missing member and share the good news. A mission that takes them into space alongside the Starjammers. Sold, baby, sold.
He's in, folks. He's in. All right.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that looks really good. It's a good mix of classic characters. Like you, Ian, I'm happy to see a couple of Gen Xers thrown in there.
Yep.
A little bit of redemption for Mondo, whom we barely got to know in the original volume. And it's a great idea for a first adventure, going out into space with the Starjammers, running into some Shi'ar Imperial Guardsmen, it looks like. And that Rod Hayes artwork, it's like a kinder, gentler version of Sienkiewicz. It takes his signature style, which is so associated with the first generation of New Mutants, and softens it a little bit for contemporary tastes.
Yep.
By the way, in Gen X, because I forgot, did Mondo die or did he leave? I don't remember what happened.
Mondo, I think Mondo was a clone of the original Mondo, it turned out, or something like that. There was some convoluted stuff going on there, so it's hard to really remember.
As one expects from a 90s X book.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, whether a clone or not, the character that showed up in the first issue of Generation X called Mondo ended up dying fairly early on.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep.
All right. I'm just jumping around. I mean, they're doing an X-Force one again. We talked last month about how they're doing a new version of Fallen Angels, and Merv was disappointed that the Marauders are not actually the Marauders from the classic Claremont stories from the Mutant Massacre era. written by Jerry Duggan, though. That's very promising. And on page 16, a new Annihilation story.
Oh,
Written
wow.
by Matthew Rosenberg, art by, I'm going to butcher this, I'm sorry, Juan and Ramirez. What are you saying? I'm sorry.
No, I was just oh wow on that. It's been a while since we've had anything Annihilation.
That Ariel Olivetti, Annihilist, is terrifying.
Yeah. So, is the original Nova back?
It says, just as it will Nova be able to assemble a team power enough to tackle this burgeoning threat, but it's already too late to stop its descent upon the galaxy.
Okay, because it certainly does look more like the original recipe Nova than the Kid Nova that's been going around lately. So, who knows?
I think sometimes we forget how Annihilus is a A-level villain. Like, he is tremendously powerful and extremely frightening when he's given full reign to, work his diabolical plans.
Sure is.
Sorry, no interest in Absolute Carnage at all. If you guys want to talk about that, go ahead.
What? You're not interested in Scream: Curse of Carnage?
No.
What? Everybody's been dying for Scream to come back.
One thing I want to say, though, because we're in the Spider-Man section, we'll go to this more down the road, but I just read the last issue of Life Story.
Mm-hmm.
All I'll say is it's been a long time
Yes.
since a new superhero comic actually made me cry.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to discuss that in more detail down the road. But to any Spider-Man fan or just any fan of Marvel superheroes, please go out and read this story. It reminded me why I love that character so much. So,
Well, you want to get me interested in the current Spider books for so slightly. Just go ahead and bring back 2099.
2099,
Yes.
including this is a hoot, Conan 2099.
Yeah. Punisher 2099 is in there. Fantastic Four 2099. Oh my God, they're bringing out all the stops here.
Yeah, I can see Ravage in the background.
Yes, you can.
Oh wow.
Oh boy.
And Doom 29. I dug the Doom 2099 book. I really enjoyed that book.
It was good stuff. Yep.
So they're doing another Deadpool #1.
Good team though.
Good, really good team. Yeah.
Yeah. Kelly Thompson and Chris Bacalo.
Yeah. So that's Murd, how do you feel about a new Morbius book?
Not sure we needed one. I kind of liked the last one, but it didn't really get much of a chance to spread its wings, as it were. Isn't there? That's one of the properties that Sony is developing right now, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I'm blanking on his name now, but the guy who played the Joker in Suicide Squad.
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto. Yeah.
Thank you. Jared Leto is supposed to be playing Morbius.
He's a good actor.
Yeah. So, I'll see what the reviews are looking like for that thing, because again, Venom didn't exactly have me thrilled, and if they're doing more of that style, then I'm going to be disappointed. But if it's something a little bit more serious and less silly, then maybe.
Oh man. And this new Morbius series, I like the character quite a bit, but if it's just what we're told about it here doesn't really pique my interest all that much. Yeah, he's still looking for a cure that's going to make him human again, and he thinks he might have found it, and he's just chasing the usual will of the wisp. But not enough to show me that something really different and interesting is being done with the character.
Okay, the other thing I'm really excited about in this book, in this catalog, is on page 41.
Yep.
The definitive Punisher scribe is returning to the character. Garth Ennis with Jason Burrows. Wow. Punisher Soviet 1 of 6 in immediately.
That's a great team. Jason Burrows' art is made for the Punisher.
Yeah, and they worked on Cross together, which is one of the most terrifying comics I've ever read.
Yep.
But so it's Picasso dealing with Russian mob. That's enough. Look at that art. Look at that artwork. Oh, that's going to be tremendous. I cannot wait to read that.
I cannot wait for on page 44, Amazing Mary Jane #2, MJ versus Mysterio.
I saw that. It's Mysterio. I love how she's enraged by something in the script, in the cover, and he's sitting, cockily in the director's chair.
Beautiful.
That looks fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a lot to say about a lot of these monthlies. I don't read a lot of them anymore. Dr. Doom, I'm looking forward to. Number 1 hasn't come out yet. That's on page 56. I will definitely talk about that. If I had money, I'd get Fantastic Four Grand Design because it's based on that wonderful X-Men. What was the name of that? Was that Grand Design too? The X-Men history?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, which was phenomenal.
Yep. On page 52, we have Black Cat Annual #1. Could it be? Are Spider-Man and Black Cat getting married?
Oh my God. Once again, go read Spider-Man Life Story. That's all I have to say. I do have to mention, because I just read issue 13 on Marvel Unlimited yesterday, on page 64 and 65, the Immortal Hulk. Holy crap, Ian.
Oh yeah. Yep.
This book is so amazing that I'm tempted just to say fudge it and just go out and get back issues or trades, because normally I just wait, but this is one of the most exciting Marvel comics I've read in years.
Yep.
In terms of an ongoing monthly. What Al Ewing is doing the work of his career. It's so deeply rooted in the history of the Hulk, but he just takes it in these directions that are just so refreshing and chilling at the same time, and it's a master class, man. God.
Running back for a minute, by the way, page 53, Spider-Man Venom Double Trouble #1 of 4. This I'll read on Unlimited because I don't see a reason to buy it right away, but it looks so cute and fun. It's Mariko Tamaki and Guri Hiro. I'm sure I'm butchering that one there, but it's a take on Spider-Man and Venom where they're actually sort of friends, and they have to go and try and save the city from peril, even though they're friends, but Venom is still Venom, and Spider-Man is still Spider-Man. So it's a nice cute one for the kids.
You gotta have something for the kids.
Oh yeah.
I'm jumping into page 74 because 2 of Marvel's best books are on the page. Invaders. Chip Zdarsky with the art by Carlos Magno and Butch Weiss has been excellent. Again, they're really exploring the secret history of Namor and his ties to Charles Xavier and what happened in World War II and afterwards. It's excellent because Namor is totally off the rails again currently, but they're tying that into the past. And again, I verbally ejaculated about this last time. History of the Marvel Universe by Mark Waid and Javier Rodriguez.
Yep.
That's yeah, man.
Yeah. Hey, Murr, did you see what the new Avengers arc is called on page 67?
Well, let's take another look here. Oh, yeah. I saw that it involved the new universe concept Starbrand.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just, more hits coming out here from Jason Aaron, Ed McGuinness, and friends. This is a really good run of the Avengers in general.
It sure is.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Sure is. Absolutely. And the book Black Widow returns to the team on page 67.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great Avengers. It's Aaron. It's so well done. I wanted to point out, because, again, I love the history, on page 80. Well, I'm sorry, this is $3.99 now, too. Tomb of Dracula 10, the facsimile edition, first appearance of Blade the Vampire Slayer in his glorious Gene Colan 1970s turtleneck. Oh, God, this! If you have not read Tomb of Dracula, you're denying yourself one of the greatest series of the Bronze Age.
So, have you ever seen the absolutely horrible animated movie that was quote-unquote based on his Tomb of Dracula run?
You mean the one that was done by in Japan?
Yes.
Oh, Ian, I own it.
There is nothing better. I figured you did, but I had to ask. There is nothing better than watching a depowered Dracula eat a cheeseburger.
Yeah, I think I've only seen it once. It's appalling, but
A friend of mine runs a panel at anime conventions called Bad Anime Bad, and he's shown that thing like 7 times, and it's funny every single time.
well, on a more optimistic note, the fact that is it Mahershala Ali? Is that the actor, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is going to play Blade eventually is just such an inspired bit of casting. I can't wait to see that. I know it's way down the road, but
hell yeah. Again,
I'm more and more online because of just money and time. But the Ta-Nehisi Coates Black Panther Intergalactic Empire story is amazing. That's going to be a classic Black Panther arc, and it's still going. And it's not like it's dull or just filling up space. It's a tremendous saga. I mean, I really applaud what Coates is doing. He's taken the Black Panther. It's such an innovative, interesting direction with this storyline.
Have you been reading Zdarsky's Daredevil on Unlimited at all?
I have. I have up through issue 7 in paper format. I've only read 1 or 2, and I love them. I have to sit down and at least get through 7 here.
Got it.
So it's my pile, but then I'll probably go to Unlimited after that. But I should point out, I'm jumping ahead a bit, but that on page 93 they're ending the Star Wars title.
Yep. We brought
final issue. It's a trap.
I think we brought that up on a Comic Talk recently. I think Shane was the one who brought it up. Yeah, more than likely they're just rebooting it for the new once the new movie comes out. But yeah, for now they're ending it here.
Well, when the inevitable, and I probably already said this, but when the inevitable hardcover collection comes out of all 75 issues, I'm getting that because one of the best Star Wars comics I've ever read. I mean, consistently great. Essentially every issue, the arcs, the one-shot stories. You had Jason Aaron, then you had Kieran Gillen, then you have Greg Pak. I mean, it's been superb. And if you're a Star Wars fan, it all takes place in the continuity of the original trilogy, meaning A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Actually, it all takes place around, I think, between New Hope and Empire. It's superb. I can't recommend it enough. And if I'm going to drop, potentially $75 on a hardcover like that, then it's that good. So, what else you guys got from Marvel? Anything?
Well, on page 100, they are soliciting the on sale December 2019 the hardcover collection of House of X / Powers of X, and if you haven't read it, read it. That's
I read the first issue of House of X.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it, Ian.
Yep.
2 has come out, right?
Oh yeah. It was
okay.
It was a weekly series. So
okay. So what I have to do is I just have to go to a local shop because I just ordered the first issue. I didn't realize it was weekly.
Yep.
And I really enjoyed the first issue.
Yeah, I'm waiting to get the next couple of codes from our good buddy David D because he got issues 4 and 5 from DCBS, and then he's going to get issue 6 off the rack.
Hopefully, when we all read it, we can at least you and I can talk about it.
Definitely.
I'll try to finish the whole thing.
Give it to me in soft cover, and maybe we can do business.
Wow, Mafia Murd. Incredible. That's a new iteration.
Yeah, I'm full of surprises.
Yep.
Before we get any further into collections, though, I did want to mention way back on page 36 and 37, the Yondu miniseries that Marvel's going to be publishing. Now, ostensibly, this is going to be starring the present-day space pirate Michael Rooker, Yondu. But it does mention in the solicitation copy that, quote, an unexpected visitor from the future turns up to stop Yondu. And given who's shown on both the variant covers, I'm kind of expecting and hoping that that's going to be Pirate Yondu's distant descendant and namesake, 31st century Yondu, founding member of the first Guardians of the Galaxy to appear in comics. Seeing those two interact in a miniseries would be worth reading, especially since the whole thing is illustrated, and this is an important point, by John McCrea, who has not done very much work for Marvel.
I hope that there's at least one scene of the two of them pointing at each other saying, I'm Yondu. Wait, no, you're not Yondu. I'm Yondu. That would be...
I'm Mary Poppins, yo.
Jeez. Murd Unleashed.
Oh, man.
Murd, how do you feel about a Power Pack omnibus on page 107?
It's an idea whose time has come, Chris.
I figured.
Yep. And of course, the Marvel's 25th anniversary hardcover, 2 pages back on page 105. Ain't going to be on sale till March 2020, but damn, is it going to be glorious? And it's going to include the epilogue as well, I believe.
Yep, the epilogue.
you're right.
Marvel's annotated 1 through 4.
Yep.
I mean, I already have a collection. I have the epilogue in floppy, so I'm not going to buy this. But this is one of those stories that I can just read over and over again. It's a masterpiece. Dazzler getting a Marvel Masterworks on page 109 from her direct shop only release from the 1980s.
Yep.
Murd, I wanted to point out, I think this is a favorite of yours, if I may. Hold on, let me get to it. I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm jumping way ahead here. Page 136, Avengers Defenders War, a new printing.
Well, wouldn't exactly call it a favorite of mine, but it's something that I did buy in trade form from one of your Wild Pig sales a number of years ago.
Oh.
I read it on a car trip down to Charlotte with pants for Heroes Con a while back, and it certainly served to pass the time. Good Bronze Age Steve Gerber-esque storytelling.
Yep. Englehart is the writer, penciled by Bob Brown, Sal Buscema. Yep.
And you know what, Chris? If you're willing to wait until January to read it, Fantastic Four Grand Design trade paperback is already being solicited.
That. Yeah.
And the trade paperback is only $15 on DCBS.
Not bad.
Yep.
Interesting on page 144 in their Epic collection, they're doing the Ladder Defenders run by Peter Gillis and J.M. DeMatteis, and also the Gargoyle miniseries. You recall that at the end of the Defenders run, Iceman, Beast, and the Angel joined the team with Valkyrie and Gargoyle. So that's an interesting era. Also, this is a classic. Page 146. So in the late 60s, Marvel briefly tried to get into the magazine format before they went whole hog with it in the 70s. And they did 2 Spider-Man magazines. The first was black and white. The second was color, called The Spectacular Spider-Man. The first issue was black and white stories that were later repurposed and colored for the actual Amazing Spider-Man monthly series. The second story is a classic. It is a Green Goblin story by Lee and John Romita Sr. That's enough said right there. But it is just vintage Spider-Man Silver Age. I can't recommend that second issue especially of that magazine. And look, even Tiger is getting a complete collection on page 147.
Yeah. Looks like every Bronze Age solo story with that character, both as Tigra and as her prior incarnation as the Cat.
Yep, they got the Cat 1 through 4 when Marvel had their brief foray where they tried to do in early Bronze Age a series of comics headlined by female characters. That was the Cat, Shanna the She-Devil, of course the legendary Night Nurse. Yep. Good stuff. I'm good with Marvel. You guys got anything else for Marvel?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me.
All right, I have to leave soon because I got to get up for school. Do you mind if I just shout out a couple things, gentlemen?
Be our guest.
Isn't he sweet, gang? I thought something was very interesting on page 200 under Boom. I'm sure you guys noticed this as well. Folklore #1 by Matt Kint. So it kind of flips the whole fantasy, like getting lost in a fantasy world on its head, where in Ansel's world of monsters and magic, he's haunted by visions of our world with tailored suits and modern technology. Ansel embarks on his quest to find the mysterious folklords, hoping they can explain his visions. But looking for the folklords is punishable by death. Interesting. Looks really interesting. So I just wanted to shout out that because it just struck me. And also, another thing I wanted to point out was in the book section, Anthony Daniels has released an autobiography about his entire life as C-3PO, which just I saw him at a con once many years ago. It was actually at a Pittsburgh, the Steel City Con. Yeah, that was many years ago. like 2009 or something like that. And he was a wonderful guest. It's on page 294. I Am C-3PO: The Inside Story. So, all about his life and his interaction with the various cast and being C-3PO, and so that's interesting. And again, I'm going to mention also on the same page. I got to buy this. I still don't have this from my shelf. Berlin, the Complete Edition, hardcover by Jason Lutz. This is one of the greatest achievements in independent comics in many years. And this book came out sporadically in it wasn't a typical floppy size. It's more like a smaller square size comic, for lack of a better description. But it's Lutz. He creates these different characters, and we follow them as they try to navigate Weimar Germany as it starts to move towards Nazism. It is one of the greatest comics I've ever read, period. And his grasp of the historical detail is just unparalleled. But he also creates really nuanced characters who are compelling, who, you have mixed feelings about some of them, but you also can kind of understand where they're coming from. It's a masterpiece. And I can't recommend this enough if you're interested in the history of the Weimar era leading up to the Nazi period, and you just want to see a master at the top of his form. Get Berlin. That's a tremendous book. And the last thing I'm going to mention, because I can't leave without talking about Tomorrows, because that's just part of my duty as far as I'm concerned. On page 360, they've resolicited American Comic Book Chronicles, the 1980s. I mentioned this because they just released. I was salivating with my DCB service shipment. American Comic Book Chronicles, the 1940s. So they've now chronicled from the golden age through the 90s. These are essential purchases if you're fascinated by the history of the American comic book. They are in depth. They are exhaustive in the best possible way, chock full of magnificent illustrations. They put everything in historical context, what's going on in the culture at the time, timelines, pop culture, merchandising. This is Tomorrow's just at the top of their game. Mandatory reading if you love the history and are interested in the history of the American comic book. So I just wanted to shout that out. Gentlemen, I wish I could stay on forever, but I must get up at dawn.
Well, glad you could stick around as long as you could.
You bet, brothers, and I look forward to seeing both of you soon.
Yes, we'll see you soon.
Yes, and the listeners will soon know what we're talking about when it comes to that. So, all right, brothers, I'll talk to you both soon. Good night.
All right,
and
good night.
Sweet dreams. Ciao.
Good night, my friend.
Good night.
Well, Murd, I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's just you and me now.
Against the world.
Yep. And let's roll back to Dynamite, and I literally don't have anything in Dynamite.
All right, I'll drop a mention of Kiss Zombies #1. I mean, that's one comics bandwagon that Kiss was meant to jump onto. So yeah, there's a first issue of that coming out. That's on page 170, and it's 50% off at dcbservice.com. Beyond that, I don't think I have anything really new that I'm going to be ordering from Dynamite. So yeah, let's move on.
Yeah. I do echo sentiment on Folk Lords, by the way, and it does look like it's going to be a lot of fun. The art on that as well looks really. I think cutesy might be the word I'm looking for, but also has a nice mystical bent to it, and I appreciate that. All right, 204 BB Free #1. Written by Gabby Rivera and illustrated by Royal Dunlap. Somehow don't think that's the real name of the illustrator, but either way, Royal Dunlap is most definitely a name. And Gabby Rivera wrote America for Marvel Comics, so she was the writer of the America Chavez series. And this is about BB Free broadcasts her underground radio show from her remote swamp community, and she has no idea she's actually the chosen one. It's been over 100 years since the plague that ate greed wiped out half the population, and it's the only world that BB has ever known, but when BB rebels against her overbearing father, she realizes that everything she believes in could be a lie. Well, that is a loaded description right there with a lot going on, but damn, that's some pretty artwork.
Yeah, just look at that tripped out color scheme.
Yeah, really, really digging it.
Yeah, golden alligators and rainbow swamp water. Yeah, and also the fact that this is set in some kind of weird future in which the 1% have been annihilated by a mysterious plague, or have they been? Yeah, it's a pretty solid premise.
And it's also solidly 50% off, only for $1.99 on DCBS.
Mm-hmm. You know what else is 50% off at DCBService.com?
Do tell.
The first issue of a 5-issue The Magicians miniseries, also from Boom, pages 198 and 199. So it's not the first time that this popular book and television concept has been brought to Boom Comics, but it is another time that it's happening. And if you want to get in on the ground floor of this miniseries, the first issue will be discounted for you by 50% at DCBService.com.
Very good. Boom, and not a lot of number ones to be had, and not a lot of new collections to be had either. However, I will mention on page 218, Ghosted in L.A. Volume 1, Discover Now edition. So if you haven't checked out Cinna Grace's series, Ghosted in L.A., this is another way to do it. It's going to be on sale November 27th and collects the first 4 issues of the series. And Cinna Grace has been an award-winning writer, a GLAAD Award nominated as well, and an illustrator. I always pronounce the name Siobhan, but Siobhan Keenan of Clueless and Gem of the Holograms is also behind Ghosted in L.A. So maybe time to give that a go.
All right.
And the collection on page 220 is the Rocco's Modern Afterlife collection by Anthony Birch and Mattia De Meo. I've mentioned it before. I'll mention it this time now that it's collected, and it's almost guaranteed to be sitting on my shelf at some point, just for the premise and the creative team. Finally watched that Rocco's Modern Life Netflix series, and it was like I was back in the 90s all over again, sitting on my couch watching Nickelodeon with a bowl of cereal. It was so much fun, and I love Rocco, and this is made for me.
Mm-hmm. Then revel in it, Ian. It is your right.
Amen. In fact, let's see how much that discount is on DCBS. It's only going to cost you $9.74, solid 35% discount for the trade.
Right. Shall we move beyond into the rest of the catalog?
If we dare.
Oh, we dare. I think we must.
All right.
Let's see. Okay, again, page numbers are kind of at a premium here, but I'm thinking page 229 under a publisher called Ablaze Publishing.
Just got there myself, yep.
Yep, they're doing a series that they're calling The Cimmerian, which is pretty obviously Conan, because it says right there in the solicitation copy, it's Robert Howard's Conan.
They may actually not be doing that, by the way, because I believe they've been dealt with a cease and desist.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is. I was actually going to point that out because Peter Rios and I were recently talking about the cover C, the alternate Crisis #7 parody cover. Mm-hmm. On this page, Peter he tends to snap up any and all variant covers of any comic anywhere that refer to Crisis. And this is one thing that he had planned to buy, but discovered that it was no longer being offered. Yep. And we theorize it was probably some kind of trademark dispute, and you have confirmed that for us. So thank you, Ian.
Yes, indeed. Yep, they had the rights to collect it in England, I believe, and overseas, but never did procure the Conan rights here, because I believe it's actually available for anybody there, but not here. And they tried to get around it by using the Sumerian, and were cease and desisted out of existence, basically, with that. It's not going to happen.
Well, yes, Conan the Adventurer is not going to go adventuring on American shores today.
Yep. Okay. Here we go. Go to AC Comics. They have a spotlight on something called 21st Centurions on page 234, which looks like it could be fun. Stephanie Heike with art by Mark G. Heike and Stephanie herself. And it's a modern contemporary pop culture action and angst tale with a take on superheroes in this offbeat series that stars naive teen heroes and an enigmatic mentor with questionable motives. So, never really heard of AC Comics, never really picked up anything by them, but caught my eye, so maybe something I'd check out down the road.
Yeah, they're best known for Golden Age reprints and a series called Fem Force that often made use of Golden Age characters that had slipped into public domain.
Okay. Very nice.
Why don't we just jump together, Ian, to page 252?
Sure can. Ah, yes. He's back.
You see what I'm driving at here?
He's back, baby. Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man #1 by Pyre and Igo, with the cover art, Peter Krause as the main art. Very nice. Love me some action in that reality there. So glad to see more of it coming.
Yep. It's going to be a prequel to the Wrong Earth miniseries, in which the campy Adam West style Dragonfly Man and the gritty 80s style The Dragonfly switched realities. So this is going to be stories featuring these two heroes existing in their proper parallel Earths. Just good period pastiches of Silver Age and dark and gritty Copper Age comic storytelling.
Very cool. And right underneath that, they solicit the Wrong Earth Volume 1 trade paperback yet again for anybody who has not checked it out. And I highly recommend you check it out, because damn was that good.
Yes, and I highly second that high recommendation that Ian has just given you.
Okay, we got on page 254, Feast or Famine trade paperback. Heard of this before, and now here it is in trade form. Dave Schwartz and Joseph Connor is your creative team here. In a parallel dimension to our own, Nicholas Tesca partners with Dr. Albalian Stein to create a futuristic world of tomorrow. Together they establish Tachyon Industries, a laboratory designed to advance our understanding of science, technology, and the universe. Then one night, Tesca is working late in his lab when he discovers a faint radio signal. Believing the signal was sent from an intelligent source on a nearby planet, two scientists build a teleportation device to take them on a journey across the cosmos. And once on the other side, they encounter aliens, robots, mutant ice bears, and much more. You had me a mutant ice bears.
That is pretty hard to resist.
Yep. So there's the collection of that fun times there on page 254. Page 262, Shatner, the hardcover, by Applause. Okay, got my Foley working. In the early months of 1966, a handsome, hard-working 35-year-old Canadian-born actor who pronounces sabotage, named William Shatner, was cast as Captain Kirk in Star Trek. Yeah, you know the drill. This is basically just a biography on Shatner, but I had to mention it. It's by Michael Seth Starr, and you're going to shat all over this book.
Oh, boom. Yeah, Chris would be proud of you, Ian. In fact, he'd chime in here about how he's seen Shatner perform live.
Ooh, lucky man. Yeah, I still point towards his Denny Crane as one of my favorite Shatner performances. I loved his take on Boston Legal.
Right.
Page 267, Cosmo the Mighty Martian, #1. That's some nice, fun, kid-friendly books right there. Ready for launch on November 13th. Cosmo is back and ready for action. An investigation on the asteroid Ceres quickly becomes a quest for survival when Cosmo becomes the target of the ingenious battle princess She. The troubles only grow more fearsome as the Martian crew learns that the Queen of Venus is planning on interplanetary invasion. It may be for kids, but they really are high on the innuendo there.
Yes. The Princess She.
Yeah.
There's no T on the end of that, we promise.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And she's the Queen of Venus, so, enough said.
Yeah. Yeah. Putting that classic Cosmo the Merry Martian character to further good use.
Yep.
Up on page 288, for fans of The Matrix and its creators, from Burly Man Entertainment, brought to you by the Wachowskis, Doc Frankenstein, the Postmodern Prometheus, in hardcover. Written by the Wachowskis, with art by Steve Skroce and a couple of other people. And it's, we don't have much information here as to what the plot specifically is, but it's a Frankenstein story of some kind, brought to you by the filmmakers who brought you The Matrix, and came up with this Frankenstein narrative kind of as a way to blow off steam while working on film projects. And it was important enough to them to finally bring back to the printed page here in comic form all these years later, after they've gone through a few life changes of their own.
Interesting, yeah. No, I've never did check out Doc Frankenstein, and I think this may very well be the right time to do so as they bring it back into print. So that's pretty cool. And now there's talk of Matrix returning in one form or another. So we're going to be hearing a lot more of the Wachowskis in the future. As I think Keanu Reeves has said he will return for a fourth movie if they make it.
Well, if he can return as Ted Theodore Logan, he can return as Neo.
Oh yeah, yep. And as long as he continues to make John Wick movies, when he has the spare time, though, because oh my God, do I love me some John Wick. Okay, page 291. DC Women of Action is mentioned here. And featuring Wonder Woman, Lois Lane, Batgirl, Bumblebee, Hawkgirl, Black Canary, Amanda Waller, and many more. This volume is a vivid celebration of the amazing, inspirational women of DC Comics. So it's a good reference material for any of you looking to find out more of the femme fatales and female superheroes and heroines of the DC universe.
There we go.
The Disney fan in me also needs to point out on page 293 is travels with Figment on the road in search of Disney dreams, as there's going to be significantly less Figment in the world of Disney World, as it looks like they're finally getting rid of the ride that made Figment famous. They're as part of the Epcot renovation. I believe they're getting rid of that entire science building, and in doing so, getting rid of the journey into imagination that Figment was a part of. So hopefully they'll find a way to still include him at some point, because he is a big member of history of the parks of Disney, if not necessarily Disney animation too much.
Right. But yeah, I'll add my hopes to yours, Ian, that they do find a role for him someplace, because I remember Figment fondly. On my 2 childhood trips to Disney World, I actually did have a stuffed Figment toy.
Nice.
It had an important place in my stuffed animal collection.
Got a new collection of blankets for anybody who hasn't checked that out on page 295. And also of scenes from an impending marriage, which I picked up, I believe, at a Mocha Fest years ago. It's a very small bound book, but it's really, really cute. So well worth your time and your money on that if you want to just go through the history of a relationship by Adrian Tomine and his impending at the time nuptials. I'll be honest, looking at page 302, I thought I was looking at the wrong previous catalog for a minute, because that looked like a preview for a porn mag, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, it looks an awful lot like that, doesn't it?
They'll let anything in previews now.
Pussycats, eat death or get naked. Yeah.
I think I'm skipping on that one.
Yeah, me too. I'm all the way up on page 343.
Go ahead.
Where we find that scrappy little publisher Scout Comics has apparently acquired the license rights to publish a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer comic. It's a 80-page graphic novel called The Island of Misfit Toys. And it's got all those old Rankin Bass designs from the original Rudolph special. It's got Yukon Cornelius, it's got Sam the Snowman, it's got Charlie in the Box and the Spotted Elephant, and a bunch of their friends. And it's a new adventure about rescuing Charlie in the Box from being lost at sea and getting him back to the island in time for Santa Claus to take him and the other toys off to be delivered to children across the world. The Misfit toys were always my favorite part of my favorite holiday special, on which I'm apparently now something of an expert, having been quoted in a mini documentary feature about Rankin Bass and their output. So yeah, you'd better believe I'm going to be ordering a copy of this.
Very, very cool. It'll be close to timely when it comes out.
Yeah, hopefully, if all goes as planned.
Yep. Jumping back just for 2 seconds on page 312, there's a box set of Smile, Sisters, and Guts by Raina Telgemeier. And, Raina Telgemeier is a name that I don't think is brought up nearly enough for the fact that she is easily the most successful comic creator of our time, just because of the fact that so many of her books are distributed by Scholastic and wind up at Scholastic bookstores everywhere. And
good point.
Elementary school kids across our country have read Smile, Sisters, and Guts. And internationally as well. She's done a TED Talk about her success, and I've had the pleasure of interviewing her at a Mocha Fest a couple of years ago. And I really enjoy her output. And I'm glad to see it being collected in a box set where you get to experience 3 at once. So, more Raina the better, I say. On page 325, for the name of the comic alone, Who Killed Kenny?
You bastards.
Exactly. Nothing to do with South Park, but it's got 45 cases you can solve to find out who killed Kenny. But if I were picking it up, I'd be screaming, "You bastards," after every single page.
Of course. Well, and they kind of admit, even in the solicitation, that South Park has something to do with it. A cross between South Park humor and Where's Waldo for adults.
Yep. Where's the person who killed Kenny? You bastards!
Find him. He's a bastard.
326 has a story called Fights by Joel Christian Gill. It's a visceral and deeply affecting memoir about Joel Christian Gill's life, chronicling his youth and coming of age as a black child in a chaotic landscape of rough city streets and foreboding backwoods. and really digging the art style that he chose for this. And I really appreciate a good memoir, especially one that's illustrated. And I think that this one's going to be something special. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's nominated for a few things for next year in one form or another, whether it be Harvey's or Eisner's or what have you. But I could see it happening.
Well, all right, you heard it here first.
Yes, you have. Well, they're doing yet another Rick and Morty Dungeons and Dragons crossover. I didn't even know that was happening because I knew that there was the first one. But apparently, we're 3 issues into it now. Rick and Morty versus Dungeons and Dragons 2: Painscape. And the third cover version of this comes with a full D&D stat sheet. So that's full character sheet of D&D if you get cover C. I think that's worth it.
Yeah, and same month they're coming out with another one of those Rick and Morty Presents character spotlights. This time the focus is on Unity, the alien hive intelligence who is also Rick Sanchez's ex.
Nice.
Cool the dating game variant cover by Cinna Grace.
And these will be coming out right around the time of the return of Rick and Morty, too, because I'm pretty sure it comes back in November.
Oh.
Yep.
It's about a year sooner than I expected it to come back.
You and me both, man, but I guess when they were picked up for, 4 more seasons or something like that, I guess they have plenty of time to come up with ideas. Make it happen.
All right.
I've now watched the trailer, by the way, for Stumptown, and I am definitely watching that premiere once it happens. That looks like a lot.
Do you know when that is going to happen?
Very soon, I'm pretty sure, because I keep seeing the ads all over Hulu. Let's see, Stumptown premiere. And that premieres next week as we're recording this, which means probably the week that we're releasing this. So that would be the 25th of September as the first episode premiere.
All right. Mark your calendars, folks.
And I will definitely be discussing that on our next Comic Talk.
Kobe Smulders playing a Rucka character.
Yep. And also, there's another... Jake Johnson's also in this series. So if you're a fan of Jake Johnson from New Girl or any of the various movies he's been in the past couple of years, he'll be alongside Kobe Smulders in Stumptown. The pun, the glorious pun on page 339. You'll be sorry to miss out, punk. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Good job, 2000 AD. Have you watched any of the DC Superhero Girls animated series?
I've seen a few clips.
Okay.
Certainly not a complete episode. I think Matt and his daughter Sophie have seen several, though.
You know, way better than I thought it was going to be. Like it actually has some really good wit and humor to it. We've zoomed through. I think the first season's on Netflix, and a bunch of other has been in the Cartoon Network app that I've been watching. And I'm sure it's on demand also for anybody who has cable. But it's surprised the hell out of me that it's not just for not just for kids, that it actually has some staying power for adults as well.
Yeah, from what Matt tells me, they've used a few surprising DC characters in the show as well.
Yep, they have, and an entire episode is dedicated to Batgirl going back home to Gotham for the big Gotham City convention that's happening. And they're waiting to see Batman as the guest of honor, and it turns out to be Robin, and they're all pissed off.
Funny because true.
Yep. 342. Gwar, the enormogantic fail. I've never been a Gwar fan, but this just looks like it's going to be some fun. some fun, stupid fun.
Fun, stupid fun. Yeah, that seems to be a Guar specialty.
Oh my God, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, I did this thing called e-wrestling, where we would like role play wrestling, and my character's intro music when he walked down to the ring was Guar's version of New York, New York, which is a very weird take on the song, to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, I would expect any Guar cover to be a weird version of whatever it's covering. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know who they are if I hadn't watched Beavis and Butthead back in the day.
Yes. Pretty sure that was my introduction to them as well. I'm not seeing too much else, but if you have anything, by all means.
Well, page 361. I'm kind of sorry I missed the first issue of this, but under Uncivilized Comics, speaking of blankets, as you were several pages ago, something new coming out from Craig Thompson. Autobiographical again, but it appears to be in a tone and a style that I think I would probably find more palatable than I did blankets. It's called Ginseng Roots. Its second issue, solicited for November. Craig Thompson returns home into the heart of rural Wisconsin to the former global capital of ginseng cultivation. We meet his sister Sarah, who was excluded from blankets, and the ginseng farmers who employed Craig and his brother as children. Craig explores the problems with autobiography, the nature of memory, and the editing that necessarily follows. Okay, so he's kind of turning the subgenre of autobiographical comics in on itself, getting a little bit meta with it.
Yeah, kind of the Zach Morris Time Out of autobiographies, from the sounds of it. You know,
Right. Could say that. It's also a little bit what Alison Bechtel was doing with Are You My Mother, when she tried to do something about, like a follow-up to Fun Home, talking more about her mother, and ran into a brick wall with it, and ended up just talking as much about the problems of doing autobio-memoir comics as about her intended subject.
Yep. Of course.
So maybe Craig Thompson's indulging in a little bit of that as well.
Perhaps. Of course, now I think of American Splendor as well when talking about, going autobiographical and then wind up, inserting yourself in there as much in the process.
There's another good parallel to draw. Well done.
Yep. And shortly thereafter, sir, on page 362, Valiant has a first issue, Dan Abnett and Juan Jose Rip for, is it pronounced Rye or Ray? The character. That's the question.
I'm almost sure it's going to be Rye.
Okay. And this is Rye number 1, and they are doing yet again a pre-order. If you want to pre-order all 10 issues, you can. But this is Dan Abnett's take on the Rye character that's existed in Valiant for a while now, if memory serves. And welcome to the 21st century, bitches. 41st century, that is. 41st century,
That's right.
I swear.
Yeah, Dan Abnett is a great writer. I'm willing to try most things he does.
Yep. You're
That
usually
artwork
pleased.
does look very nice indeed.
Yes, it do. Yes, it do. Got a how-to book on page 374. That's a featured item. Stan Lee's Master Class. It's how Stan Lee provides aspiring comics artists with the modern tools they need to succeed in the comic book creating world, focusing on topics like anatomy, perspective, and character design, as well as brand new topics like manga art style, digital art, and more. So taking the old concept of Stan Lee's art classes and bringing it to today, probably one of the last ones we'll see, and it's nice to see it solicited in one form or another out of Watson Guptill on page 374.
Anything else to bring up in the American comics section? Or is it time to broach the manga pages?
I think it's just about manga time, and that means time to find actual first volumes. Volume 4, Volume 2, Volume 3. Come on, give me a Volume 1, people.
That's my challenge too. find something that I can get in on the ground floor of, and that also, is to my taste.
Well, how about this? It may not quite be a manga, but it sure as hell is interesting. $3.97. Featured item. Transformers: A Visual History. Man, that's a coffee table book right there. Man, the Lighting fan since 1984, and now a deluxe hardcover celebration. Behind-the-scenes production sketches, beautifully polished final art, and everything in between. This is more than meets the eye, people. This is beautiful. 35 years of Transformers all in one book. Ugh. Loving it.
Yep. This is the kind of thing that you'd usually see coming out through Dark Horse, but everybody seems to be muscling in on their game these days, so why not Viz Media?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And let me see what the discount is on this sucker, because that's really something that not only I would like, but I know tons of people in my life that would like it too. The limited edition is ridiculously priced. I'm not even going to talk about that one. But the regular is a solid 35% off, or $32.49 on DCBS. So that's not bad. It's not that bad of a discount there. 35% is decent enough. So I may know what somebody's getting for Christmas, but that's luckily I don't think they listen to this show, so they're not going to know. But that's a damn fine book right there. And then,
love it.
Yep.
Love the book, and I love that you're already putting on your elf cap and planning to give it as a gift.
Ho ho ho. And I will go down to 401. A tropical fish yearns for snow. Man, they're just going to keep giving me titles that just scream manga, and that's exactly what that one does.
Oh, yes, a top volume.
Yes, by Makoto Hagino. And Konatsu is about to start a new school in a new town, and she's basically all on her own. Her dad just got a job overseas, and her aunt can only check in from time to time. It's a lot for a shy, reserved girl to handle, but on one of the first days of class, she discovers that the school has an aquarium. The club that runs the aquarium is headed by an older student named Koyuki, and Konatsu is instantly drawn to her. Konatsu's introverted tendencies are hard to overcome. Maybe she's found something worth coming out of her shell for? Perhaps it's a tropical fish yearning for snow?
It's a metaphor.
It sure as hell is. Yep. And then something a little more, a little less romantic right beneath it. Levius. Is that Levius Est? Yeah, Levius Est. 19th century, the world has entered the era of rebirth, recovering from the devastating flames of war. And cybernetically augmented fighters turn their blood into steam and their bodies into brutal fighting and killing machines. Doesn't sound like my 19th century. But, you know.
I remember it, Sonny.
But the young Levius is one of those arena battlers hell-bent on winning in order to simply survive. Alternate 19th century good times right there.
Mm-hmm. With fighting cyborgs.
Hell yeah. I'm thinking that's probably it, but let me roll down just another minute here and see if anything else screams win. How about this? Bungo Stray Dogs on page 406. When a request flies in from the government enlisting the help of Yukito Ayotsuji, a top-ranked skill user and detective notorious for his deadly skill, and Mizuki Sujimura, a devoted newbie agent from the Special Ability Agency, the unusual duo find themselves with more than just an open and shut case on their hands. And this is a spin-off of the popular Bungo Stray Dogs series, which I've heard of before. And this one just sounds like it's almost like a Bad Boys-esque take on the detective genre of manga. And with a new Bad Boys series on the horizon, maybe I'll recommend a manga like that.
Sure. Just what people's appetite for that kind of material.
Exactly. What you're going to do when they come for you. All right. Now I believe I've shot my bolt. But you got anything else?
Well, let me shout out on page 417, since this is a manga series concept that I actually recognize. An omnibus of Dirty Pair. It's about a pair of female troubleshooters for hire. They've been active in Japanese comics and animation since 1980. And this would appear to be, from Seven Seas Entertainment, a two-in-one omnibus collecting some of the first manga adventures of these characters, created in Japan as a retelling of the first light novel, in English, contained entirely in one 360-page volume. So there you go. They're one of those properties that were being presented to American audiences by Dark Horse back in the day when manga was not such a big deal on these shores. And they're still being presented to us now.
Very cool. Very cool indeed. All right. And I think that's it for manga, but I do have a couple toys I want to throw out.
All right, by all means, do.
Okay. On page M8, well, you know what? Actually, I guess it's technically on page M15, so let me go there. There's a John Wick statue that they're putting out. That, damn if it doesn't look just like him. Like they get Keanu's personality down in this.
That looks more like Keanu than Keanu does.
Whoa. Yeah, it's really, really well done. And if it was less than $50, I'd be considering it. But it's $50, so hell no. But
right.
Still pretty cool either way. And that is going to be it from me.
It's probably it for me, too. I kind of thought there was one other little tchotchke in here somewhere that I had...
oh, you know what, actually?
I've been impressed by, but
M34, real quick. M34. I'm pretty sure these have been solicited before, but I gotta mention them. They're putting out new Batman Adventures-esque action figures based on essentially if Batman the Animated Series never stopped and started introducing characters that were never actually introduced in the animated series. And here they have a Azrael Batman and a Red Hood in Batman Animated Series style.
That is an extremely cool idea.
Yeah. It's really awesome, and then the renderings are like spot on. Like that's absolutely what they would have looked like had they been in the animated universe. And job well done to whoever created that idea, and I applaud them for doing that.
Do you suppose Brent Cassina is going to own one of those?
He very well may. Yes, he very well may own the Azbats. Although, if they came out with a straight up Azrael figure with like all the spikes and what have you, then he may go for that one instead. But either way, it's pretty cool. All right, and that is officially a bolt shot.
All right, and I don't think I have anything to add, so make it 2.
Okay. Well, you do have one more thing to add. Hey, that sponsor, what's its name again?
It's Discount Comic Book Service, their URL being dcbservice.com, which ought to be your first stop for all of your online comic book pre-ordering needs. Check them out. Check out the discounts, the bundles, the customer service, the whole 9 yards. You won't be sorry you did.
You sure won't. And you won't be sorry for listening to our end credits.
If you'd like to send us an email, the address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave a voicemail, you can call 267-702-6642. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, where our handle is @ComicGeekSpeak. You can go to thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com to leave feedback about this episode. Let us know what you're interested in in the previews catalog this month, or leave feedback for any of a variety of other episodes of this podcast we've released lately, or just shoot the breeze with your fellow CGS listeners and comic fans on a variety of topics related to and unrelated to the podcast. We'd like to thank everybody who's donated to the show in the past. We really appreciate it. The show would not be what it is today without your help. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.